We would like to point out that the following contains mature content, which may not be suitable for children, as this podcast was created by a very immature, middle-aged man. This is He Said, She Heard. He Said, She Heard. An original Mike Fox podcast series. Brought to you by Definitely Adult Diapers.
Did you hear what's going on?
That's not what happened at all, but that's clearly what your ears heard. 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 On a quiet Thursday afternoon, Dorothy Baking Powder and her husband Samuel are sitting quietly watching the telly when suddenly down the hall, one of the tenants, Andy Keto Atkins, is overheard by Dorothy, partaking in something that sounded like it was beyond quiet enjoyment.
Oh, Samuel, you hear that racket going on down there?
Not really, Dorothy, but just let me turn up my hearing aid a bit. Oh, what's that? Sounds like the telly is on down there. Different channel, perhaps. I don't know what these young people watch these days, Dorothy.
No, Samuel, that's not it at all. Can't you hear what's possibly happening in that tenant's washroom right now?
Perhaps he has a young Sheila with him in his flat right now. What's wrong with that? Remember when we were young at one point?
But I only hear a man's voice. Sounds like Andy, our new tenant.
You only hear a man's voice? Well, maybe Andy is into that sort of thing. After all, it is the 21st century, and we can't discriminate on the basis of...
No, I mean, I only hear Andy's voice.
Oh, so you think perhaps he's, touching his John Thomas?
You said it, not me.
Well, you see, Dorothy, he's a paying tenant, right? It's not like he's...
disturbing our building with noises of him.
Having a wank?
Yes.
Well then, if that's how you feel, why not have a chat with the fella?
Great idea. You can talk to him man to man.
I meant you, Dorothy.
But that's something a man talks to another man about.
That's true, but as you see here, here's the thing. You know I'm wearing those definitely adult diapers, right?
Yes. What does that have to do with our tenant's bodily amusement park?
Well, I definitely just did, if you know what I mean.
You?
Yeah. So you can either give old Samuel a hand here, or...
Okay, I'll talk to Andy then.
He Said, She Heard. We'll return right after this. I always loved my afternoon strolls. Until now. Bloody hell, the pox toilet is locked. Oh well, let me see if that cafe's toilet down the road is unoccupied. What if you didn't have to? Have to what? Try to hold it in, my son. Son, I'm old enough to be your father. Got it. What if you didn't have to try to hold it in, Grandpa? Hell, bloody hell, I'm not that old. You're what, 45? Close enough, Dad. Better. How long is this going to take? I need to go. No worries. Abracadabra. There. Now. Oh my gosh, how did this diaper magically appear around my... Definitely. Is this a depends you zapped on me? No. Definitely. And I definitely just did. Like the LP from Oasis. Definitely, maybe. No, definitely. And I even have room for another. Kaboom! By the way, who the hell is Oasis? Noel Gallagher's old band from the 90s. Who the hell is that? Is that a barbershop quartet you said they're in the 90s? Definitely. Definitely adult diapers definitely stacks up to the competition. We now return to He Said, She Heard. Here's the thing. You know I'm wearing those definitely adult diapers, right?
Yes. What does that have to do with our tenant's bodily amusement park?
Well, I definitely just did, if you know what I mean.
You?
Yeah. So you can either give old Samuel a hand here, or...
Okay, I'll talk to Andy then. Oh, boy.
Oh, hello there, Mrs. Baking Powder.
Hello, Andy.
Are you all right?
Well...
You look like you just saw a ghost.
It's not that.
Well, tell you what, why don't you come on in?
Thank you. I just heard some noises down the hallway that sounded like they were coming from your flat.
Oh, please, have a seat.
That's okay.
I just shampooed the sofa. Go ahead, have a seat. You want some tea?
No,
So you say you heard some noises that were perhaps coming from my flat?
they were coming from your flat.
Noises from my flat. What makes you think that? I was just in the toilet.
I know.
You knew I was there?
Well,
Interesting. In the lease you said these walls were soundproof. But anyway, what sort of noises?
something that was so, how do I say?
Perhaps you ought to have a seat, Mrs. Bakey Powder.
Oh, okay.
There. That way it'll be easier for you to explain what you heard. Now go on.
Okay, it sounded like you were enjoying yourself to the point of...
Oh, so you're saying that maybe I was in there touching my John Thomas?
You said it, not me. I don't have a problem with what you do here, but the entire building?
I'm not saying that's what happened, Mrs. Bakey Powder, but that's clearly what your ears heard, right?
Yes, but what else could you have been doing?
That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. I'll explain to you what happened. You sure you don't want some tea?
That's okay, thank you.
Very well then. Let me jog your memory. You remember when I moved in here last week, and you were kind enough to offer me a homemade blueberry pie?
Yes, of course. Oh no, this isn't like what happened in that American movie. What was it called? American Pie?
Not at all, not at all, but I see where you're going with that. Anyway, after masticating.
What? You said you weren't doing that.
Masticating, that means to eat up.
Oh, I thought you said something else.
I know. I see where your mind's going, lady.
Do you want to get smacked? Respect for your elders.
Of course, of course. After I masticated, okay, you don't like that word. I finished off. I ate up your pie in one sitting.
You ate up the whole pie in one sitting?
Of course. After all, it was so yummy in me tummy.
Why, thank you.
No, like you. But then afterwards, it just sat in me stomach for days, and I couldn't drop anchor for a long time. Till a few minutes ago when you overheard me.
Drop anchor? But you already live here.
No, I meant drop the kids off at the pool.
But you don't have any children.
Alright, in layman's term, I was constipated until today. So those noises you heard were me finally getting rid of it.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Auntie. Please forgive me for being a nosy landlady.
Quite alright. But after I was finally able to get that last loaf out,
TMI, I've heard enough. Thank you.
Hello, Andy. Oh, hey, Sammy, what's up? Dorothy, you never went to the market to get me definitely.
Oh, yes. Let's go, Samuel.
You have to pardon my wife. What you do behind closed doors is your own business. You could be a pole puncher. Just no live kangaroos, as stated in the lease.
Samuel, he already explained himself.
Eh? What happened? I was constipated after masticating your wife's pie. Eh? I never knew masturbation could lead to that. No, masticate.
That's only a fancy word for eating, Samuel.
Eh? I think that word might be in this week's crossword.
Let's go before you explode in your last definitely.
A good idea. Hang on. I don't think I'm going to make it that far. This was He Said, She Heard. That Andy's a nice fella, isn't he, Dorothy?
Yes, he is.
So is his neighbour, the art collector Lawrence.
Oh, yes.
He's got two beautiful German Shepherd puppies. What are their names?
Well, this is interesting, Samuel. You know how the dogs are a male and a female, right?
Yeah?
Well, the girl dog was actually named David for some odd reason.
Okay, maybe it was Michelangelo's David?
That's what I thought.
But why would he name the girl dog David?
That's a good question.
So if the girl dog's name is David, then what's the boy dog's name?
Balls.
Hey? I thought the episode was over. Oh, that's just a bonus scene.